Welcome to Your Vote, YourTV's extensive coverage of the 44th general election in Canada. And joining me now is Christina Wilson, who is a Green Party candidate in the riding of Northumberland, Peterborough South. Christina, welcome, and thanks for taking time out to join me and to talk about yourself and why you're running in this election.
Hi, so to introduce myself, pardon me, morning voice. My name is Christina Wilson and I am from Grafton, Ontario originally. I currently reside in Cobourg. I am an elementary school teacher teaching in Port Hope at the moment 3 days a week. Yes, even while I'm still doing this campaign, I am still working. So that makes life interesting. I have 2 young children. Let's see, why am I running? That's the big question of the day, isn't it? Why am I running? I will say 5 years ago when I switched to Green, it was Jeff Wielden who really got me into it. He is an amazing speaker, amazing advocate for the Green Party, and he convinced me to not do the strategic vote anymore. It was his words that really convinced me to switch over to Green, and even put a bug in my ear that made me think I could actually do this and I could actually run someday. And he had to step down for some personal reasons. And we searched for a Green candidate for riding. I've been sitting on the executive since the spring. And I couldn't leave our area high and dry without a Green candidate. And you know what? The realization that I do have a voice and that I can do this. I actually have the power to do this. I am 43 years old and I have enough training through the union and through teaching and speaking with people that I believe in the Green Party and I believe we should have a candidate going forward in our riding.
So I want to touch on something that you said, Christina, in your answer, where you said 5 years ago you switched your political views. And I want to touch on that because doing research for this interview, I understand that at a young age you went to the Young Liberals convention, you listened to then Prime Minister, our Liberal Party leader and Prime Minister Jean Chrétien, and were inspired to get involved in politics. So what happened 5 years ago that made you realize that maybe the Liberal Party wasn't what you needed and you switched your thoughts to the Green Party?
There were the 2 main ideas, I guess, that go with it. And the one, of course, the main one is the climate action. There is no other party that has the strong climate action plan that is needed in order to meet the Paris Accord goals by 2050. I mean, the reality is our country is one of the few countries whose carbon emissions have risen since the Paris Accord instead of being decreased. So obviously we are not doing enough with the 2 governments that have been in power in the last 10, 15 years. So that's the main one. The other one is the Universal Basic Income Project, which I really think, or Guaranteed Livable Income, which I really think is important to go forward with.
So Christina, you said as you were sitting around on the executive looking for a commitment or for a member after Jeff decided not to run this election, and I will agree, Jeff was an amazing candidate in the 2 elections he ran in, federally and provincially election, and I was hoping to see Jeff once again as he is, as you stated, a very strong candidate, a very well-spoken candidate. So as you sat there, what was that that moment, I guess, where you said, I can do this, and why can't I do this?
My husband and I had already sort of talked about it just, in our evening discussions after the kids had gone to bed. And we sort of had speculated about either one of us running. And we know we have the Green values and we know we have the ability to do this. But what it was actually people who brought my name forward. So it was also that knowing that you have your team support and knowing that you have people in your community that believe in you and think you can do this. So it was not until I did not agree to run until other people brought my name forward.
So let's talk about the commitment needed and the support you needed from your husband. And you have 2 young children. You're, as you stated, you're currently working and going to continue to work during this campaign. So talk about all that, trying to balance all that and be a candidate in this election.
It is definitely interesting. I have a very strong team behind me. We are small but mighty. I mean, we do not have the finances, of course, of the other 2 parties. We are gearing up. We were aiming for that 10% just so that we can, one of the goals is to get that rebate from Elections Canada. For those who don't know, when you reach 10%, you get a 60% rebate on your campaign funding spent back from Elections Canada for future elections. So that is a big goal of ours going forward in this election. I would say that we are small but mighty. I like that idea. that we have many people wearing different hats. You know, my campaign manager is also my official agent, is also handling the signs. You know, we have a gentleman who's on our team, but living up in Perth just for the moment, and he is making calls for us. So we have those people who are willing to do what needs to be done for this Green Party, and they're helping manage things behind the scenes when I'm not able to.
So we're about 2 weeks, maybe 2.5 weeks into this campaign. Talk about how it's going thus far, what you're hearing, and is it what you expected or more than what you expected? Because it's certainly a different campaign where we're doing this interview through Zoom to make sure we protect each other and protect each other's families. So it's certainly a different vibe to be able to try to get the word out for the Green Party, as is all parties in the same boat.
Yes, I would agree. I would say we are doing a little bit more of a social media push this time and less knocking on doors, as it were. I mean, we are entering that fourth wave of a pandemic. You may see me out now that I've got my RAT cards in. I may still be out at your door putting out some RAT cards there to introduce myself. I've been focusing on farmers markets just because that is one of the real community spaces that is open at this point in time. I've done Coburg, Port Hope. That was when I was still getting my signatures. I was out to Codrington last Saturday. I went around, tried to, introduce myself to everyone at the booths. And tomorrow morning, I'm going to head over to Orono, is my next stop, I guess you could say. So we're doing things like that and making the phone calls. And I would say, if anybody wants a sign, that's the big push we need. Please, 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 please communicate with us. I do have a website, ChristinaWilson.ca, if you can find me online, and there is a button there to please request a sign. We need to get just the word up that the Greens are running and we're out here. We have 300 signs. It's one of the splurges that we made. Let's get those signs up there and try and show our green numbers out there, please.
Other than being in the background, Christina, working for the party, and as you stated, being a young Liberal attending conferences, has there been any political background that you've had previous, or is this your first foray into any type of politics being in the forefront?
Politics, specifically like government, this is my first foray, absolutely. I have been working for about 7 years with the Teachers Union, with the Elementary Teachers Federation of Ontario, and that involves a lot of parliamentary procedures, et cetera, within the union. I have been attending our annual general meetings provincially, like with hundreds and hundreds of teachers for the last 7 years. It's a great experience in learning how that works and how people have a voice and can get up to a microphone and speak their views and try and convince people to vote for their changes to bylaws and constitution, et cetera, going forward. So I do have that background and that I need to be able to do this. I'm the vice president of the Occasional Teachers Union for Kawartha Pine Ridge right now.
So I want to get your first reaction, Christina, when it was first announced. There was lots of speculation that this election was going to be called at some point. Some predicted in the summer, some predicted later in the year. Your first reaction when you heard that Parliament was going to be dissolved and the Prime Minister was going to call the 44th general election?
Oh boy, here we go. I'll be honest, I kept hoping it would be delayed and it wouldn't happen. I'm not sure now is the time for an election. We have too much going on. We're going into our fourth wave of this pandemic. It is real. I know a lot of us are vaccinated, but this Delta variant is scaring everyone. We have forest fires going on all over our country that are related to climate change. We've never had this many. There's always forest fires. They naturally do happen. But the number we have right now is absolutely incredible. It's real evidence that climate change is happening and we need to do something about it. The war in Afghanistan, there are so many reasons why we should not be spending the extra money for an election when a coalition government was working super, super well. They were making agreements. They were working together as a government should. And yet, instead, we're pushing to try and get this majority government. And I just don't think that it was the right move.
So history of the Green Party has always been about climate change. And we're going to talk about that first, but also you've certainly expanded the thoughts and the views of the Green Party. So we're going to run a few through those, but I believe that still the main focus is climate change and the green economy. So talk about what that means to the Greens now compared to maybe what it has meant in the past.
I think there's really strong push at this point in time to some of the big climate action things that you're looking at are the no more development of pipelines. We are scrapping all current pipeline projects. We are interested in no more subsidies for fossil fuels. That money should be going back into something like green jobs, green technology, doing the research and getting the technicians and companies building things to switch over and get rid of fossil fuels into greener cars, into greener jobs for our area. Now, I do like the statement that it is a just transition. And what does that mean? It means we don't want those people who are in the fossil fuel industry. It's huge in Alberta. We do not want those people to be out of jobs. The idea is that there is training, that there is money going into that instead of the subsidies for fossil fuels to be retraining them into the new energy sector, the new green energy sector that we would create. So that's sort of the push for climate right now in our areas. Those are the big focus targets.
One of the things that I saw on your researching yourself and your views and what your thoughts are is what you call ecological agricultural methods. Explain that to me and explain that to the voters, what that means and why that's important to yourself.
Well, we come from a very big farming community here. This is a rural riding, and there are a large amount of farmers out there. And I think what it is, I think there is some fear there that through switching to pushing for a greener future and greener agricultural methods, that it's going to cause them to either lose their farms. The idea is, again, the money needs to go into that to be able to help them to make the small farms still viable. I actually think the small farms are the way to go in the future, that we all need to be growing our own food. And there's different organic agricultural methods that actually help capture carbon. I mean, climate change is from carbon, that happen to capture carbon and put it back into the soil. That if we are farming through this kind of technology, that this is something viable for the future that we can all do. So minimizing our carbon footprint, changing up our gas guzzling equipment for things that will lessen the carbon footprint and the gases being released, and just less chemicals, switching to organic. But we want to make that transition lucrative for the local farmer. We want to make sure that everybody has a viable and sustainable chance for those farms.
Now, I want to pick up on the point where you said that you feel that small farms are what the future is. We're certainly not seeing that right now. We're seeing major conglomerates buying up the small farm agricultural land. They say, currently they say the bigger is better. You can't sustain yourself if you're on small farmer, or the small farmer can't sustain it anymore. So how do you feel, or why do you feel that is completely opposite of what we are currently seeing right now in agriculture?
That is an excellent question. I like where you're going with that, Mark. I will say that I'm not an expert on all farming. I have my own local farm. I share with my dad out north of Grafton, and we grow our own food and we look after ourselves. We share with the community. We make donations to the local Fair Share Food Bank, and I guess I see that if we can do it, why can't everyone? And I think that concept of just growing our own, going back to basics. I've talked with people who say, well, my grandparents knew how to grow their own food, but I have to admit, I don't, and my children don't. And I want to get back into that. I've talked to local people who have said that. And problem is, what the big businesses are doing right now is ruining the land. The chemicals and things. There is a great, I was actually put onto this a few weeks ago by a local constituent. There is a great Netflix film out there called Kiss the Ground. Please go watch that so you can understand exactly what is happening with the big businesses and what they're doing with the land. There's a petition out there to stop Bill Gates from investing in agricultural big businesses in Africa, because it's actually causing more desertification close to the Sahara Desert. And they need to have proper farming that's going to put things back into the ground. And the big businesses are not doing it because they're all about the money, and they just want to push through and are ruining the land.
One of the philosophies of the Green Party and yourself is a universal basic income, something that has been called upon or by many people, and it seems to be gaining momentum and ground. But if I remember correctly, I believe the Greens have been talking about this for long before of the other major parties of a basic income for people to be able to survive with.
Yes, it's one of those, what I have a list somewhere hiding in my computer of called the Green First. So thank you for that. I appreciate that intro. Absolutely. And they're actually switching. I think now that the other parties have picked it up, we are switching our wording about, we are calling ours now the Guaranteed Livable Income, or GLI. So what the idea is that everyone is getting this. So I don't know, choose a number. I'm not the economics expert. What I will do is I will wait for the experts to come up with the policy, and I will review it with my party to actually see that it is viable. And of course, parliamentary budget officer as well, right? I mean, that's how the government works. So I'm going to throw some random numbers out there. Let's say everyone in Canada is getting $2,000 a month kind of thing. It will help so much. It will help with, people who are getting old age security. Yes, you're no longer getting your old age security, you're getting something else. It's one umbrella. It's a systemic approach for systemic problem that's out there. But people on old age security can't afford medication. As you get older, you need more and more medication. Well, now with a guaranteed livable income, you might be able to afford that medication, and that's going to reduce the cost of healthcare in general, because we will not see so many people needing the healthcare when their health is being looked after by being able to afford the proper medication. So that's one. We can branch into opioid crisis idea. There are too many people with mental health issues that are ending up getting addicted to opioids. Think about it, if they had a roof over their heads, if they were able to afford just basically to live, would this be a problem? I mean, there will always be people who slip through the cracks, but by setting up even a viable mental health clinic in our area, that might help with this kind of thing. I'm trying to think other aspects of it. It will help with housing. We have this affordable housing issue in our area. And not only investing in things like actual proper rentable properties, but also people who can afford it, and putting the green technology into those homes can help reduce the cost of your electricity, et cetera, and make it more viable for you to live there.
About a minute, Christina, here. I want to get your thoughts, when elected, what your priorities would be for this riding.
The Guaranteed Livable Income Project actually is my favorite. I would say out of all of them, I really believe this is a concept that can work and help our local area with all those problems I just mentioned. And we have the strongest climate change Green Party. A vote for the Green Party is a vote for stronger climate change action. We cannot ignore it after the IPCC report. Please, please, please think about not just doing your regular vote that you think just because you want one party to be in power over the other. Recognize that climate action needs to happen, please.